This is A to Z episode 127.
Today's guests are Ariana Akbari and Alyssa Ashcraft, representing Climate Justice Texas.
It's like they're trying to be too meta.
We're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse.
Much better.
Yeah. You can buy you a drink. You can
Well, I mean, he did pick out somebody we know.
Well, you sidestepped the question. That technology does not exist.
Hello, I'm Zach. I'm here with my co-host Aaron.
Hello there.
This is A to Z podcast. We sit down with the folks to make Southeast Texas a better place to live.
That's right, and if you're new to the show, thank you so much for checking us out. A to Z can be found on all major podcast platforms. That's Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Basically anywhere where you can consume any type of media on the internet, we dare.
That's true, and we also have a phone number. It's 409-206-2971. That's 409-206-2971. Send us your favorite refinery picture.
Yeah, send us anything at all. You have an idea for a guest that we need to have on? Send us that information. But anyway, we are going to get into today's episode with Ariana and Alyssa, and it was very illuminating, very eye-opening to have them on. They're both very well-educated young people that came on, and they told us a little bit about our environment that we live in that we don't know. And we're two guys that like to think that we are in the know. And they stand up for just basically one thing and one thing only, and it's not a very tall order, but it's, can we just get the information of what's being put in our environment?
Yep.
And it's funny, and we go through all the pitfalls and tribulations and everything
Challenges,
that it takes and challenges for that information to come to light. And you'll learn all about that in this episode.
And stick around toward the end to find out what we're going to be doing next week, or next episode.
Hey.
All right, so Ariana and Alyssa,
and Zach and Aaron.
That's
yeah,
right.
and us, yeah. So you reached out to us because you checked out the show, you liked what we were doing, and then you kind of gave us a pitch of what you're doing, and we thought it was really interesting, especially considering where we are in relation to environmental justice is what you're talking about, but you kind of had a backstory for it. If you want to just kind of introduce yourself and y'allselves.
Yeah.
Y'allselves.
I like that. Yeah,
It's wonderful.
yeah. Thanks so much, Zach. So I'm Ariana Akbari, and
I'm Alyssa Ashcraft.
and we both went to Nederland High School. After graduating from Nederland, I went to Harvard, where I studied art, architecture, and religion. But I took a couple of very influential courses that were on infrastructure and the climate. Specifically, I took one course called the Climate Energy Challenge with a professor named Dan Schrag, who was one of Obama's advisors. And in that class, we had like this big project where we had to balance the energy budget. I guess I'm digressing a bit. But the point was that the class was extraordinary, and it definitely got across the fact that basically even environmentalists who are, pushing green energy and everything, they, like, in the political sphere, they don't actually have knowledge of, or like they don't talk about how big the oil and gas industry still is, and how it is extremely hard to transform our society and our economies into a zero carbon emissions world.
Seemingly impossible.
Yeah, it does very much seem impossible, and especially down here. And I think my path with this was a little less academic, simply because after graduating, I went to the University of Texas at Austin, and I studied government and education. So not environmental science, not infrastructure. But my upbringing in Nederland and around East Texas was very connected with the environment of the area and the ecological history of the area. And over the past year, I've become really fascinated with a world where we are slowly moving towards more green energy and more green tech. And in this area, I think is really unique because we rely on the economic stimulus of refineries, even though they do knowingly have a negative impact on the environment. And so as someone who studies public policy, I want to know how we bridge that gap. How do we create a world where the people in this area have jobs that provide them with a high quality of living and healthcare and education, but does not cost them the ecological beauty around them. So over the last year, me and Ariana have reconnected and really been talking about those problems and seeing what we can do as community members to make our community better.
What are some of the options that a community has to be heard?
Absolutely. So we're also here. We have joined together to create this, what's going to end up being a nonprofit, but which is currently just a platform for advocacy and community building, and it's called Climate Justice Texas. You can see its initiatives at www.climatejusticetx.org.
You guys already file for your 501c and everything, and
We're not there yet.
We are working on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you ask how do we move towards a better world, especially for an area like Jefferson County, and the counties in this area that have been called the cancer belt of the United States.
The carcinogenic coast.
Yes, as the old saying goes. You have a lot of avenues which you can take to get to that future. And something that I'm really interested in is the education part of that work and the reality that we as community members do not know what the actual economic and environmental reality of our situation is. That data is not accessible, it's not easily understood, and we don't have everything we need to understand it.
I wonder if there's a reason for that.
I have to wonder.
Going off of that, a lot of this data, so these refineries are legally required to have like safety data sheet information. But oftentimes we've gone to some of these websites where the refineries are supposed to post this information, and it's hard to get to, hard to find.
buried.
Buried.
Yeah, it's complicated to understand. I mean, these are chemical names that you're not taught in your high school chemistry class. They are not easily Googleable questions. I mean, it's really helpful to have someone who has a really foundational understanding of chemistry to explain these things to you. And you're getting this information from refineries.
I don't know what butadiene is, but it sounds bad.
Oh yeah, I remember
What's
the
an
reality.
oxidizer? I don't know.
I know. I remember finding out what butadiene was after the TPC explosion and just being terrified. The one on Thanksgiving. Terrified. But yeah, this information is not easily accessible or understandable. And so as community members, we think that our community and the people who live here deserve that information and to knowingly consent to what this industry is doing to our physical environment in this place that I think that we really, really love and care about and has a really profound beauty about it that has not been able to really flourish with the industry that's going on right now. But you balance the complicated reality that this same industry gives so many people around here jobs, and it's important for our economic survival. So how do you balance that?
So where does the justice part come in? Like, is the justice is trying to figure out ways to get them to do their fair share, or is it try to turn them green, or?
Yeah. So we've talked about the word justice specifically a lot. We think that we want to look up the actual definition of the word, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because we feel that the definition has come to change in
It has.
as like we think about it
Yeah,
today.
It's being used a lot as like a catch-all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Its birth is widening on what falls into justice.
And it means different things to different people. I mean, different community members are going to have different ideas of what justice means to them.
So the official definition of justice is just behavior or treatment. So
Well, that's wide.
it's wide.
That's very open to interpretation.
It is.
And then there are others, or the quality of being fair and reasonable. And I like this definition a lot because I think we're not asking, we're not, we understand, again, like we're balancing the fact that we actually understand that the oil and gas economy is imperative for this area, while also understanding that,
It's imperative
for the world.
not just for this
Absolutely.
area, but for our life as we live it now. And I think a lot of people will lose that a lot of times, and a lot of people will demonize. And trust me, I'm not doing that, right? I used to work in the oil field industry, and obviously I don't for a reason. But a lot of people really lose the fact of how ever-present it is. And a lot of the same people that gain all the benefits from it are some of the people that rail against it so hard. And I think that's a detriment to environmentalism because a lot of people don't realize that. And then they're not taking us seriously, you know. So it's like you got to do your due diligence and know what exactly you're benefiting from the oil and gas industry, and then balance that out. So it is very complicated. It's a very, very complicated issue, you know.
Yeah, it very much is. I mean, this is a substance that in an industry that supports so many different kinds of products and services in our country and all over the world. So it's not something that, I mean, the first big industry in East Texas and Southeast Texas was the lumber industry. And when you talk about the economic and environmental impacts of that industry, it seems like such a simpler question because more than you're talking about, you know, we have to have sustainable cutting practices and we have to make sure that people who are working in this industry have health care and are getting actual money and not company money. Now we've moved on to such a globalized economy where with this particular substance, oil and petroleum, that is so inherent to so many goods that it's not that easy anymore. It is not simply
plastics, fertilizers, fuels.
The thing that is so, I think, harrowing about this problem is that it is not a Southeast Texas problem. It is a decision we as a country have to make. And that's what makes community organizing around this issue really difficult and really complicated. I mean, it is not an easy endeavor, and it's something that the community really has to rally around as opposed to a few individuals.
Almost like people here, they don't care. It's their job. And then that's the argument that they would use is you know, it's like it's in everything, and it's how we make money. So why would we do anything to change that? And I guess that would be the thing that the education aspect that would have to come into play. Is trying to, because you have to like that's where a lot of people get messed up is they try to especially progressives and going against more conservative folks, and that's really what the divide is with the oil industry. I think is it's almost a left and right thing.
Well, and there's a lack of knowledge.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like what you said is like if you rail against something, say we're going to get rid of all fossil fuels, then they're going to think that you're being ridiculous because it's in everything and all those aspects. But it's like trying to find that middle ground and trying to get everybody to come to the table. You know, because it seems like we're having a really hard time getting the people to actually come to the table and discuss alternatives or ways to go about, you know, what y'all are trying to do. It's just that's got to be the difficult thing to figure out. Like, have y'all put any thought into, you know, how would you go about that? You know, would you go after local politicians first, or would you try to set up forums, or?
So that's a really good question, and it's really important to think about who are the stakeholders in this issue, who is going to be affected, and what avenues do we need to, you know, push through to make some actual change. And I think one important thing to realize is that one, you're right. I mean, so many people from this area make money from this industry. When you ask people how they feel about refineries in this area, even after things like the TPC explosion, which pushed people out of their homes on a major U.S. holiday, and could have injured and killed so many people. They say they like them, and I mean that's because they provide economic stimulus for the area. They give people paychecks, which puts food on their table, and so it's really important to. That's why I think it has been very difficult for non-community members to understand the relationship between Jefferson County, Orange County, and these industries.
An outsider looking in,
yeah. And even though it is pretty obvious that these industries have profound health and environmental effects on us, it's not as easy as just pushing them out. And so I think a really important area of improvement is talking about where are the jobs going to be if we lessen the amount that this industry can operate in the area. Where are the new jobs going to be? Where does economic stimulus come from? Who are we going to help train? Who's going to do that training? I mean, it's a lot of questions, and it's going to have to be something that we talk to policymakers about and community members about.
And kind of from my side, again, my background is in art, architecture, and religion. And I do firmly believe in the ability of art to kind of speak to, you said, how to bring like all of these people to the table. I definitely believe that art in its various manifestations has the ability to pull together large groups of disparate people to come to understand, you know, something in a new light. You know, we have Rocky over there. He's been having a blast.
Asshole.
He's a great
He doesn't even know that the planet's slowly dying. Look at him.
Oh my God, is that what's happening right now? No, let's not. Let's just look away.
Yeah. So one of the things, another thing that I've been working on under kind of like the umbrella of Climate Justice Texas is making a documentary about this area. And you mentioned you filmed some short docs, which is awesome. Yeah, because I want to make a documentary that showcases, again, this like dual perspective that gives voice to the people in the community in Southeast Texas, and also kind of demonstrates what the physical landscape looks like here. Because I know for a fact that all of those kids in my classes at Harvard, in these environmental classes, they have never seen like what an oil field looks like. They have never seen this refining structure that everyone here grows up right next to. You know, you have playgrounds right across from the TPC plant. You know, I live across from an industrial work site. So I think it's important to show the reality through an artistic lens as well, to bring people together.
Yeah. Almost to inspire it. That's really the one that's really going to just be the hardest thing is not even getting people from outside this area to be invested in it, and that does help. You know, that'll bring in influence and things like that. But it's trying to figure out a way, get a way for people here.
A grassroots understanding.
Yeah, and it's, you know, because you've seen it. It comes up every now and then, especially in Port Arthur, where there was that one guy that was calling out the refineries for not paying their. Yeah, I think so, for not paying their fair share. And one thing I've always thought is like if these refineries, I mean, they're making billions of dollars,
trillions
a month.
actually. We checked it.
Yeah,
you know, and it's they're making so much money. What I would imagine is that areas around a refinery would be
so wealthy. Absolutely.
would be progressive, would be
Well, there's a disparity there, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone that lives around these industrial sites, they live there because they're too poor to move.
Yeah.
The people that work at these sites, they don't live there.
Yeah.
They live in the suburbs.
But I think like we have this conception like, okay, people live in these places because they're too poor to move. But I think like people also, yes, maybe they are too poor to move, but maybe they also love it.
Yeah, I mean,
you
that's
know?
broad strokes. You know, I
Yeah.
don't mean like 100% of everybody, but obviously some people are stuck.
Yep.
Some people love it, but
because
yeah.
I think like a lot of these people have been there for like many generations potentially. In which case, but at the same time, so like if you like were in this place and you've lived there for a long time, like your grandparents live there, you know, your great grandparents live there, your grandparents, whatever, and then you're living there now, and over the past 100 years, refineries have just expanded and expanded and expanded, without telling you about the risks or whatever.
And also lowering your property value.
Lowering your
making it hard for you
property
to
value.
Sell your property if you wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something you said that I think is really hits the nail on the head is the fact that these areas around these refineries are not wealthy. The average and the median income in Port Arthur is $33,000, which is 40% below the national average, the state average in Texas. I mean, these refineries make trillions of dollars.
Have you ever done any research about Louisiana in the same way it is over here and over there?
I've done some research.
Really sad. So if you take an overall sample of how much money our communities make based on the taxation and everything else, sanctions on these refineries, and then if you compare it to places like Sulphur, Louisiana, the communities in Louisiana get 70% less than we do. And all of these things that happen, and I'm not saying this to lessen that or by making a direct comparison, I'm just saying it is like really sad how
The
somehow
inequality.
their state, and it's overall, it's from Sulphur all the way to how they just let these places just rape their communities. It's very sad.
Well, and one thing that's terrifying about the oil industry is that it's a huge profitable industry.
Yeah.
It is the center of international conflict, and it's a very important part of our GDP and our economy. So taking on these companies for community members those aren't easy tasks. And they're complicated. And also, when you have communities where the median income is $33,000, people are trying to survive. They're trying to put food on the stable for their
Family
kids.
stable.
They are trying to get their kids through school, and they're trying to go to work every day. And so you also have the added impact of health in this area. I mean, we do have higher cancer rates
That's why
than
there's more oncologists.
Yeah, we have higher cancer rates than the rest of the state. And it's not only cancer. I mean, people in Jefferson County are more likely to have skin, urinary, respiratory issues than people 100 miles away. I mean,
a whole slew of
we
issues.
have health impacts from this industry. And in a country where not everyone has access to health care, that puts huge stressors on people, both financial and emotional. It is not an easy task to say, you know, my husband has cancer. We are living below the poverty line, and I have children to get through school, but I'm going to take the time to try to fight Motiva. I mean, it's just not a reality.
Yeah.
And these companies know that. And they take time to act like community partners. They say they do, ExxonMobil.
They cut some ribbons,
Yeah, I mean, ExxonMobil is the biggest donator to Beaumont philanthropy, but they don't tell you that that is an option. Donating to local philanthropy is a way to avoid fines from overflaring. I mean, it's just, it's really community activism washing what they do to our community. And yeah, I mean, it's just not something that's easy to overcome for people that are living with this industry.
And I think another interesting thing is the way that all of the refineries have somehow like blended together in our minds. Just because you were talking about Motiva, and Motiva is owned by Saudi Aramco, which is I don't know what to get into. Never mind.
Yeah, what are you afraid of being assassinated or something? You can get into it.
A little bit.
Oh, really? A little bit? Okay, well, never mind then. Shoot.
I mean, and I think another thing is that we talk, like, I have been here for 9 months. I came home from UT at the beginning of the pandemic, and I've had a lot of time to really reconnect to the area, and which I kind of ran from screaming when I graduated from high school.
Well, most people do from here. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's a problem, first of all.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that something we forget about is that this area was not always made up of a refinery skyline. I mean, it was beautiful, and we had some of the most profound, unique ecosystems in the United States, and they have slowly.
We still do.
We
we still do. You're right.
We still do.
The
And
big thicket.
we do have the
still
big
do.
thicket.
We love it.
I'm very passionate about the big thicket. We can get into it. But I mean, you can't, as Rachel Carson said, you cannot miss what you never experienced. And so many people that live here never got to see the reality of what this place was and what it should be. I mean, our wetlands, which are really good at filtering out all these toxins that get in water,
They help with flooding issues.
and help with flooding,
enormously.
have been filled in and built over
Concrete.
with concrete. And so, I mean, and we have Superfund sites all over the area.
Are you familiar with the term Superfund?
I've heard it before, but I forget what it is exactly.
No, I don't.
So
Super fun.
A Superfund site, Superfund, SUPER,
I
and then
thought you were
Not
I
fun.
thought you were talking about like having
not
super
fun?
fun.
Not
I was
a
like,
good,
what?
not a
Not
good
fun?
time.
Oh.
Okay.
So there are sites that were so toxically polluted that the government has been forced over a very long period of time, like decades, to give extra money to clean them up. So
Like
they're
an
extra,
Aaron Brockovich situation type of thing with
Yes.
chromium.
kind of, where they're extra toxic. Yeah.
And Southeast Texas is especially easy to pollute because we have so much water. It's not just an air thing. I mean, and it's not just oil refineries either. I mean, over the course, wood processing plants and paper mills, fish bait camps.
Paper mills are some of the worst, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just dump pollutants into the water. I mean, you go to Village Creek, which is a kind of a feeder system from the Big Thicket, and you can't eat the fish from there. The Texas Parks and Wildlife has put up a sign that says, "Do not eat the fish from this stream." I mean,
It's been a while. It was
Yeah, it's been a while.
It was good whenever we ate it.
When I was a kid, I used to dig around with my feet for the clams and
Excellent.
eat the mussels and stuff. So
that's the life we should be living
Right.
with no thoughts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Without,
Well, it's what are you hoping that you can accomplish? Considering all that. And I'm not calling y'all out or anything. It's just like,
Oh, no.
it's just considering, you're worried about being assassinated. And it's not out of this, it's not out of the realm. They're multinational, global, just giant corporations. And they have our area just tied right up like with a boat, and it's like, what can you feasibly
Well, this area has
accomplish?
them tied up with a boat too. In this conversation, the thing I think everyone always forgets is that these institutions are not flexible. They are on a very rigid structure, and they cannot move. This is the one thing that perplexes me so much, is because there's this debate wherever people start criticizing the oil and gas industry, and then, then the capitalist argument of it is like, well, if we make it hard for them, they'll go somewhere else. But they can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get. There is pipelines. There is 40 years of infrastructure that is built all over this country to funnel oil down here. That's refineries don't exist here because it's like naturally a good place. They exist here because they have to. Like, they can't move. It's like if a community wanted to decide to put sanctions on them, ultimately they can't say no, because you can't move Motiva. You can't move Valero. You can't move Total. Like, they exist there. And they can't, it's not as easy as them just shutting this down and opening up one in Louisiana. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's one thing I just perplexes me. It's like,
well, in terms of aims, I would say that the biggest aim for me is to just galvanize more authentic community dialogue, and ideally dialogue between the refineries and the community. Because at this point, I don't think that that actually exists. I think it's so strange that, we both grew up here 18 years, and we never really had any conversations, or at least I personally never had any conversations from refineries spokespeople coming to tell us about, what they actually do. And there were certainly no environmental advocates around me, although every single person that I knew growing up here has a very close and intimate relationship with the environment. Like, all of my relatives are gardeners, love fishing, all of this. So there just seems to be such an interesting dichotomy here, and a place where there is great opportunity for dialogue and there's so many smart people here as well. I think that there's a great opportunity for innovation to happen. So I just want to galvanize something,
Yeah, I agree. And I think, we've talked about this, but we deserve to have easily understandable and correct information about what is being put into our air and water, and what the actual economic and ecological consequences are of the actions refineries are taking. Because these people, at the end of the day, the people that own these industries don't live here, and they have no connection or love for the land or the communities. They have no reason to, and they don't. And at the end of the day, we can't trust them to protect us or the land we care about.
Or to self-police.
Absolutely not.
Anytime it's a nice, cloudy, overcast day, I bet they're just cranking it out.
I know. And we
all know it. We all see it.
Yeah, we do. And it's so frustrating. And I think one thing that has been really heartwarming and a source of hope for me is that across the political spectrum, across age, across income, people here really do care about the land and the environment that we live in. They feel a deep connection to it. And I don't think that everywhere can say that. I don't think that all communities have that present. And I think that we're really lucky that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that kind of there's in the Venn diagram of overlap, with a lot of people who are resistant to the ideas of environmentalism in general are usually conservative people. But there is this area of loving nature where even the most hardcore conservative people actually understand what it is, especially like you have your hunters and you have your fishermen and they're in like CCA and they're in the coastal and they understand this, and these are people that work in these refineries, but they also understand the value of nature. And that's yeah.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think that's where we can find a lot of common ground.
Yeah, everybody, economics aside, like everybody cares about clean water.
We all need to drink
everybody
it.
cares about clean air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone cares about, not everybody cares about litter, but everybody cares about that stuff. And it's just, you have to make that seem as important as the economics.
Yeah. I think the ultimate goal, at least for me, is that our community should be able to make our decision about what kind of life we want to live without the terror of like economic threat hanging over our heads. We should be able to decide what we want to go into our environment without being threatened that we'll live in poverty if we make that decision. That should not be part of the calculus we make when we talk about how we are going to treat our earth.
Or die in an explosion.
Exactly. I'd rather not die in an explosion, but
I'd take the explosion over a slow gassing. You know,
or
You may get both.
butadiene.
or leukemia.
Oh yeah,
You know,
the slow paralyzation of butadiene.
or H2S.
You know, I really
Yeah.
think that would be a pretty crucial first step is getting the information about the chemicals that are being made and then making it public as anywhere you possibly can and then
That's at the very
promoting it.
least.
Like
Yeah.
that because that's the thing is like if people know what's happening over there, they'll be in general more likely to speak out, more likely to say something, more likely to to use their voices because right now it's that people are just stuck in that mind frame of just like, it's economics, it's jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you're told that this is the reality. You go to work for the refinery and you make your money and you go home. I mean, we're not told that there are a lot of options,
Yeah.
but there are more options. They're difficult to achieve. but
I also think I'm such a big proponent. I think that there are more options that we have to invent for ourselves as well.
I agree.
Because especially speaking to like clean energy and green energy innovation, I know that, we have a new president coming in right now and they've been talking about the Green New Deal and
Of course, he did fill his cabinet with big oil
Oh, God.
no comment.
immediately after.
No comment at this point. But like in speaking to my friends who do work in clean energy, they have told me about the way in which they say that like oil and gas infrastructure cannot be refurbished into clean energy infrastructure. And, that for me poses like a very extreme problem for two reasons. One, because I don't know, for a lot of reasons. But I think that, this idea, like, of course they would think that it cannot be refurbished into clean energy resources because for them, like, they don't know it. And they don't know the people here. And I think that the people here need to catalyze their own clean energy and sustainability innovations, like inventions, because like I said, I like really believe that the people here are very smart. And like we have this idea, I was talking to some people who work for the refinery here, and they have this idea that, someone will innovate eventually, and then like it'll be okay. But there's not this idea that innovation will start here.
Sure.
And I'd like to bring that to the table as well.
Well, we can have both. We don't have to just go, it's not just shut all the plants down and let's put solar panels on everybody's house. You
Absolutely.
can do them both at the same time.
And you also need oil to make solar panels.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
but it's not a this or that kind of thing. It's like it's really, God, that's the hardest job y'all are gonna have is just getting through to people.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think that there is a fundamental understanding of some of the things that go on. And to more on your point, I mean, I do think it is a multiple-pronged issue. One, the people of this area, I do agree, are highly intelligent and industrious and creative. And I think that we have a lot.
They're good people as well, actually.
Yeah, I think they are. And
Moral, for the most part.
I think that they strive to make their lives and their communities better when they can. And I think that we can really use that to make our current reality better. And I also think as a community that has sacrificed a lot to keep the country running, I think we also deserve an investment of technology and funds from other parts of the United States. This is not just our problem. We have spent decades, almost a century, providing the substance that runs this country. And now when it's time to finally grapple with the economic, environmental, and health effects that it has had on us, it is not just our job to fix.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and it is something that when people don't live here, they don't understand. It's really easy to live in Colorado and live in the Rockies, right? And love that you have clean air, and love that you don't have to deal with all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if people didn't live here on the coast and do all this, they would not be able to experience any of the gifts that they have. They sit there and they order packages on Instagram, but if it weren't for like the Port of Beaumont having these goods come in, they would never have that. They would never have all these other things. Use like supplementing. That's just how the world works, and it doesn't really work in this instance. obviously we get smacked with hurricanes.
Yeah.
So we deserve to have more federal allocation of FEMA funds than people in Oklahoma who don't have to deal with things like that, but they still have to pay into it. But nothing on that level really happens with this environmental issue.
Industrial
Yeah.
environment.
Industrial, yeah.
And I'm hoping that we're moving towards a world where that kind of equity is more at the forefront of our minds. And I also think, you mentioned like being able to live in Colorado in the Rockies or in the middle of Montana. And this is not always an easy place to love. It's not always very easy, but almost everyone loves it anyway.
Yeah.
And that dedication, I think, is really profound and something that not every community has.
Yeah, we don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know why I like this place so much. But
Yeah, I don't either.
But here we are.
I mean, you care about it. It's the people. It's the place. It does
food's
have
really
a
good.
rich history, even though not all of it is happy.
Yeah, there's a lot of culture here, which I
Yeah.
think is so.
That's why the history's great, because it's not happy. Could you
Yeah,
imagine,
it's an
can you imagine
adventure.
living in a
Boring.
place with great history?
Yeah.
You'd be like, I need to get
Where
the hell
else?
out of here.
Where
This
else
is-
could you go to like
this
a
is
geyser
fake.
themed mall? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
where else in the world? Yeah. No. I mean,
What, are we supposed to go to Canada?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
I know. But yeah, people love it. We all love it. We all care about it. And if we can stick with it through everything that has happened, we can definitely stick through it to make it better.
I think so. I agree with that. And I don't know. I guess we can kind of tie it off like that. Sounds like a good ending. Do y'all have anything planned? Any kind of events or anything you want to direct people to the website? And y'all gonna do some speaking engagement somewhere or something? Do some rallies? Let's do some rallies.
Some rallies.
Yeah, some rallies.
In front of Spindletop.
Yeah.
Meet us there.
I love Spindletop. For now, just I think, checking out our website again. Can you post a link?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Other-
contacting us. if you
Contact
have
us. Yeah,
We
contact
would
us
love
directly.
allies and friends.
You guys have like a
we can get
newsletter or
coffee. We can
anything?
chat.
We're
Yeah.
really looking for people in the community who might be similarly passionate about the environment or about community in general, health, well-being. So, yeah, any of you who are out there who are interested.
Yeah, just come talk. It's fun. And you realize how many shared experiences you have with other people here when you really start talking to them. I think we forget to compare experiences.
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah.
We all have it.
We all
Industrial trauma.
We
We all
all
have
have
trauma.
environmental trauma.
Yeah.
Please come talk about it over coffee at the Avenue.
Yeah, but also so much, like such a fondness. I want to bring that back, like the love for this area that does exist.
It's true.
It's true. Everyone
true.
from here
We all-
knows it.
we all love
We
it.
feel
It's
it.
true.
Deep in our hearts. Even if we run away for a little while, we all come back and we love it.
Something
We
about
do,
that.
yeah.
Something in the water.
Because everybody
It's
else.
It's not just H2O. It's butadiene. And it makes something weird. A weird side effect of butadiene is you just love it. You just love living there. You
Just
know.
get really attached.
No, yeah.
Well, thank y'all so
Thanks,
much.
Yeah,
thanks, Alyssa.
thank you so
Ariana,
much.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys
thank
very
y'all
much.
for
man.
having us on.
Oh, no problem.
Absolutely, yeah. We'd love to. We'll talk to anybody that's trying to get something done. You know.
Absolutely,
And,
yeah.
and we appreciate that y'all are young people that are trying to do something beyond just making
Instead of saying,
making
Beaumont
elements.
sucks.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Austin.
Yeah. We need more.
Fuck it here. I
We
hate
need more
it.
highly intelligent people who can come here and like it here and will stay here and help us
Yeah.
even build this place into a more enjoyable place to live. So, and
Yeah.
we appreciate that.
And thank you guys so much for really leading this, arts and culture endeavor in this
Yeah.
area. Like
All about
Thanks
leading.
for,
Yeah,
thanks,
we love it.
thanks
So-
for having this.
You
We
are.
just don't
You're
know when to shut
adding-
up.
You are the podcast guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're adding to the cultural diversity of the area.
I think so. Yeah.
We try.
And spreading authentic news.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Providing,
Authenticity, that's
providing
it.
a cultural
Key.
space.
That's what we started. Authenticity. That's what we say. We'll never lose that. All right.
Well, thanks for watching or listening if you have been, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks, Ariana and Alyssa. Thanks for caring enough about our environment to come back from the places that you went to get your education, and try to change your hometown. That's a pretty
Yeah.
great feat.
And stay
And-
strong. It's a good cause that you guys are doing. We all do need to have access to that information.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if you fish, if you hunt, you're on the same team as these young ladies.
That's
so
right.
don't balk at them just because they use words like climate change.
Yeah. And also, thank you guys very much to our patrons over on patreon.com/A to Z.
You guys are the best. You're the bee's knees. You guys keep us doing what we're doing. We're in this new studio. Show them, Zach, this new studio right here. We're in this partly because of your generosity. And if you would like to be as MVP as those guys, you can head on over to you can head over to patreon.com/A2ZBMT, where you could pledge a one-time or reoccurring dollar amount. Uraki's really, he's moving around and he's like, kind of, anyway.
He misses y'all.
Yeah.
Next episode, we're going to have A to Z. 128 is Mr. Jason Ebarb. He is a BJJ black belt and owner of Texas Punishment Crew. He comes on and talks about...
And he's my boss.
It's his boss and his
full disclosure.
sensei.
No, that's Japanese. We don't do that. We don't do that.
But he's going to come on and talk about, how he got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how TPC came about, and also some other side projects that he works on. Yeah.
So funny thing is, that's Japanese is sensei, right? Like teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and in Brazil, they say professor.
Okay, bye. 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 Bye.
Rocky, come here. Rocky, come here. Rocky, come here. Let's just do that whole thing again.
Why?
I don't know.
No, it looks good.
Okay.
I'll just cut it there.